Oh, man.
In The Net tonight, the under-5s review their favourite systems for work and play. Windows on the world. Microsoft founder Bill Gates reveals his vision for the future. Plus our games review with Jules, dances with computerised choreography, and the pros and cons of free software. It's not just computer chips that are getting smaller, computer users are too. At Charford Nursery School in Worcestershire, information technology, or IT, has played an integral part in educating under-5s.
You have to move the mouse and then click on the numbers.
The Hereford and Worcester Early Years project was set up 3 years ago by the LEA. And despite some reservations about the children being too young, computers have turned out to be an invaluable teaching tool.
What we have to think about, and I don't think any of us at this moment could imagine that within the next century, the children of today are going to need IT skills that we can't even imagine ourselves. So, no, I don't think starting at 3 is too young, especially if we want them to fit into the technological age.
I'll go to next one. Sing song wheel.
The children have grasped using the actual mouse very easily. They can manoeuvre it about the screen without any problem, and they pick up new programs very easily. They find it very exciting, and they haven't got the nerves that we feel. They're not afraid of doing anything wrong. They just keep on trying, and if they do it wrong, they enjoy the noises that the programs make. And I think they sometimes have more fun out of that than they do actually doing things the way they should be used.
She's already told me off for calling the monitor a screen. She's learning to use the mouse and the keyboard just as she would any other tool, like a paintbrush or a pencil. So I'm very pleased that she's got the opportunity to play this. They learn to use it to learn something. They're not just sitting playing games and blipping mindlessly.
In animated numbers, the children have to count the number of objects on the screen first of all, and then they have to follow a little man who's called Numberbod and take him down some ladders to find the correct number, and then walk along the plank to animate the number. When they've found the number on the screen, the number will animate, and they enjoy that, so that's a reward for them to get it right.
Most of the software that I've seen that is suitable, simple enough for little ones, is from America. So that's the one thing they have to be careful because of the language, the different spellings, the different monetary system that children would be, using a different kind of language. So you have to be careful of those aspects of it.
This here is Grandma and Me, and it's an animated story which the children can take part in. They can press on any part of the screen to make the grandma move, they can make the seashells move, they can make the clouds turn into anything. So the children can actually take part in the story. They can turn the pages forward or back just like they can a book, and then they can sort of make the story come alive, which is more interesting than a book. They're very impressed with it. They enjoy sort of making everything move, and they're finding things now that I didn't even know were on there.
The one that children have enjoyed the most has been Mario's Fun School, because there's been a lot of progression in that. The children have been able to start at an easy stage and work their way through. There's lots of number recognition, colour recognition. They've sung songs with it, and they've done some quite difficult work on opposites where it's got more and more difficult as the package has moved on to the next stage. So they've been able to find their own level and learn a lot from that, besides the conversation that they've had with each other while they're using the programme.
Do you have a computer at home?
Yeah, my daddy has one.
Your daddy has one? And do you play with that?
Yeah. I
What does?
Daddy's for you to my daddy.
Your daddy's what?
My daddy's for you to. But now it's got its going into my room.
People used to call Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, a nerd. He wasn't glamorous like Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple Computer. He wasn't a guru like Alan Kay, the pioneer of personal computing. He was just a nerd who dressed badly and talked gobbledygook. Today, Bill Gates is worth around $7 billion. His company Microsoft is worth around $27 billion. And the Windows interface is to be found on 9 out of every 10 PCs sold throughout the world. Today, if you call Bill a nerd, you do it nicely.
Well, the word nerd can be used in a sort of friendly way to say somebody who loves the technology and gets into learning it and even, stays up late playing around with it. That's a positive sense, and that I fit that description. When it's used in a negative way, it's almost like a racial slur that maybe comes about because some of this anxiety that people have.
Some of that anxiety might come from the fact that Bill Gates isn't content with his Windows system running just a few PCs. He wants it to run the world, spreading like a computer virus into our faxes, our phones, our TV sets, and yes, even our toasters. Television, they once said, was a window on the world. Binary Bill wants to put the world in a window.
Computers in their early days were limited to just putting characters in a fixed box, and that was it, just characters, because it really, there was a structure that made it easy for the computer to do that. And so it was a key element was getting the computers to be fast enough to be able to do all this work of painting things onto a totally flexible, what's sometimes called a bitmap screen. They call it that because if you can turn on and off every little dot, that means that you can think of it as a bunch of ones and zeros, a one where it's turned on and a zero when it's not.
It's easy to forget that just a decade ago, Windows was a joke. In 1984, it wasn't Microsoft that was going to take over the world, it was Apple. Computing was to have a new, friendlier interface, the Macintosh. Windows was Microsoft's attempt to reproduce on cheap standard machines what Apple had done on its fancy new one, and it wasn't easy.
When we shipped it in 1987, the typical PC was still too slow, had too little memory, and there's a problem when you come up with a new system that if you don't get people to do applications, then nobody wants to buy the system.
After a couple more cracks at the problem, Microsoft came up with Windows version 3, and with that single digit, it was transformed. And this is what the latest version of Windows 3.1 looks like. You have laid before you what seems to be a fabulous display of all the power that a PC can offer. Documents filled with fancy fonts, spreadsheets that can magically turn dull numbers into colourful charts. You can even have your system talk to you.
You have elected to switch to a different application.
And you have that buzziest of buzzwords, multimedia, delivering music, animation, sound, and even, given a huge amount of hardware and a following wind, a crude sort of video.
Well, Windows, in a certain sense, is a kind of standard. It runs on about 90% of all the computers that get sold. If you take Windows and Macintosh, those are the two that have enough applications that they're mainstream environments, and the vast majority of the volume, 90%, is actually on the Windows side. So it's the foundation on which people are building.
But there's a cost for all this functionality. Scratch the surface of any Windows system and you find lurking beneath MS-DOS, the user-hostile operating system that Microsoft developed for the original IBM personal computer a decade ago. A bigger problem is that unlike the Macintosh, which is under the Kremlin-like control of the Central Committee at Apple HQ, Windows has to cope with any hardware that chooses to call itself IBM compatible. The results can be extremely messy. Add a CD-ROM drive from one manufacturer, a sound card from another, a scanner from a third, a high-resolution graphics card off the back of a lorry and a couple of stickers, and you've got a drunk on a bicycle, supremely confident of its rock-solid stability while being liable to crash at any moment. The next version of Windows, codenamed Chicago and due out later this year, will, we're told, solve such problems, as will Microsoft at Work, a project designed to make Windows the standard interface for controlling all office equipment, not just desktop PCs, but faxes, phones and printers.
Printing complete.
For Microsoft, however, perhaps the biggest challenge lies beyond the office and in the home. There's mania about the information superhighway builds. As excitement for 500-channel interactive smart TV grows, Microsoft ultimately hopes that it will be its window that opens up this brave new virtual world. And what will you get? I mean, over using the sort of system that you're piloting over the next few years, I mean, just what will come out the screen?
Okay. People find it easy to understand. You can look up any movie, see reviews, see what your friends like, have it suggest based on what you liked a movie and see it immediately. They understand playing games on the device where you have multiple people playing together and you can see the other people while you play. They might not appreciate you can enhance TV shows and where you have a contest you can bet, or where you have baseball you can get additional information, buy tickets. If you have music TV, you can buy the CD, find out about the concert, or send in fan mail. You can get government information instead of going and waiting in line or filling out forms. You can do all that right there at your PC.
Do you think it's sort of definitely going to happen, or do you think that...
Oh, absolutely.
Why do you think? You think there's the demand out there for this sort of thing? Or do you think it's just there's so much money being put into it by... No.
It's all based on the demand. But I can't use some mathematical proof to show you there's demand. At the heart of it, there's intuition here. In the same way that we bet our company on Windows, we're betting our future on our vision of the information highway, and spending over $100 million a year and putting all of our reputation on the line, that there will be a lot of highway activity that's important, and that our software will be a major part of that.
Next in our weekly games review, Jules tracks down Astrochase on the Apple Mac. And still to come in the net, the dancers who are tapping into the digital world. Plus looking a gift horse in the mouth. Does free software really work?
Ready? Your turn. Go on then. Go on. Go on. Hey, do you like my pencil?
Hi, Jules. Have you done the review yet?
Oh yeah, I'm meant to be doing a game review.
Alright!
This week, I want to tell you about Astrochase on the Apple Mac. You fly around in space with one task in mind: save the universe, which is quite an original storyline. Naughty minds have been sent to kill your planet, and you alone are being ordered to go and blow them up. Your spacecraft is of the sad variety and needs to be refueled every couple of miles. Refueling is easy. You just fly through fuel pods that are just sitting around waiting for your visit. Once you've blown all the mines, the baddies get tougher and send even more mines to another planet in your universe. And, that's it. Pictures look great, with nice planets flying around. But other than that, the game's boring, far too difficult to progress, and the keyboard controls are too complicated.
Great! Zap!
Wow! 5 minutes ago, this was my rockery. And this is my rockery now. Give it to the dog. Out of tell I'll give that space game Astrochase a boring 6. Still no cows.
Choreography is a complicated and expensive creative process. Traditionally, choreographers needed to work directly with their dancers to make new movement. Mark Baldwin, formerly a dancer with the Rambert Dance Company, has recently started using a computer program called Lifeforms to create his choreography.
It's like a visualization tool for me. I can work out what things look like, and just by having the figure in front of me, it suggests moves that are possible. And it's a working tool. It's just like doing sketches, except the sketches happen much faster and they move. I used to make choreography with my video camera. I would improvise in front of the video camera, watch it, learn the moves that I'd made, and then teach it to people. But the thing about Lifeforms is you don't need a studio, you don't need a video camera, you just need the software. The screen's divided into 3. This is a stage here. The stage can move around. The stage has the dancer on it. This is the dancer here. And we can manipulate this figure in any way we like. We just click on, that came up, upper back. This shows you what the upper back can do. So if the figure's facing front, the upper back can twist, it can rotate, and it can do any manner of things that a human body can do. It won't do anything that a human body can't do. And the whole lot is registered here on the timeline. And you make the timeline move on with the panel like that. And if I want to lift one of the legs up, this is the right thigh. This shows me what the right thigh can do. So I'd like to move the right thigh to the back, actually. No, that's to the forward. This is to the back. Perhaps we could bend the knee. No, I quite like that. I'll keep that in for 2 frames. Go to the knee. Right knee. The right knee can only do 2 things. It can bend 2 ways. And then we have the right knee activating itself, can go back, and I would prefer at this point, after I've moved it on for a couple more frames, the right foot to point. There it is, the right foot. This is pointing all the way, and let's see what we've got from the beginning. Turns around, bends the right leg, bends the right knee, points the right foot. It does clever things for you, like to lift the leg up. Did you notice that the body tipped over that way? Just watch that once more. He's going to have to tip onto his left leg to release the right leg. There you see, and he's settled back his weight onto it. It's a time-saving device as well for me. You can work movements out on it, work out a whole vocabulary, have a particular dancer in mind, for instance Shelley in this case, the kind of quality she has, and she can just learn it straight off this, and we can discard or add details as we wish. It's about interpreting as well. I wouldn't dream of asking someone to move exactly like this little figure's doing it. When you turn around and I'm expecting them to bring their own qualities to it. And the computer image is just a guideline for what that might perhaps be. This is a guideline for the kind of things I quite like Shelley doing. Yeah. Can you start further back, Shelley, at the very beginning? And I find with technology it can cut the rehearsal time down by about half. But I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing. It's just a way I've found of working in the 90s. Most dancers these days are used to working with videos, so it's an extension of that. If you're not watching another figure on a video, you could be watching this. There is definitely a dialogue. I mean, I think the more I work with it, the more it suggests to me what might happen next, which is great.
If you don't think that your body has the capability of doing it, you still have the capability of making it because you can see it visually.
Yeah, so you can adapt.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little thing in this we had to adapt. It's this, right here. We had to change right to the left leg. Because I've been using it to choreograph it on it, I've just been using it as a kind of like a choreographic tool. But actually, this little person, inhabits a world of his own. So, and that actually has endless possibilities.
Once we've got the life forms animation, then we can turn them into solid 3D models, and then render them as, first of all, wireframes, and then we can render them with various forms of shading onto them. So what I was most interested in was to take the stuff that you'd done and then work into it and make it more painterly.
Actually, I love this one.
Than it is.
It's lost that kind of rigid, solid look. It's kind of emerging. It's got loads of movement in it without it having to do anything.
When browsing through your newsagents, you may have noticed that a lot of the computer magazines carry a disc on the front cover. Now, some of this is called shareware. You pay the author a nominal amount if you like the programme. But much of it is freeware. It costs nothing. Now, this is far from being the computer equivalent of a free comb or sachet of shampoo. When this magazine hits the streets tomorrow, it will carry this disc of freeware. To buy it commercially would cost £300. One of its main authors is Alan Phillips.
I give programs file editor away free because I like the idea of people using my work. I've benefited in the past from using freeware that other people have generated, so I think I'm just repaying in kind the general effort in the community. It's not just on magazine covers that you can get freeware. It's available on a large number of archived computer systems on worldwide networks. Particularly the American internet has a large number of machines, mostly at universities, that carry tens of thousands of software items. Anyone with access to the network can pick them up. It's true that practically any piece of software you want to perform a function, you can find something in the freeware market.
Commercial software companies, of course, are not too keen on free software and argue that freeware is too unreliable to be used by serious computer users.
There is a problem, of course, in the industry with some fairly horrific software viruses, and it does tend to be that it's the freeware kind of environment that spreads those software viruses. Using freeware for major commercial applications is fairly rare, because people who want those kind of applications tend also to want good documentation, good training, and a lifeline to the company that produces the software for regular upgrades of the technology.
The most common mistake people make is assuming that if something is commercial software, that means it's well written and well supported. It's amazing that that myth manages to continue despite so much contrary evidence visible to everyone.
Richard Stallman actually lives in the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where he has developed a range of valuable operating system software called GNU.
See, the idea of free software is to give users certain freedoms. Freedoms I believe everyone should have with software. There's the freedom to study the program, the freedom to redistribute it to your friends and neighbors and other people, the freedom to change the program if you don't like quite how it works, or if you find a bug, you should be able to fix it. And there's the freedom to improve the program and thus contribute to the growth of the community.
Unfortunately for commercial software houses, many big companies, from Barclays Bank to BT, are catching on that hundreds of thousands of pounds can be saved by using free rather than commercial software.
At GlaxoChemicals Research, the head of biological computing, Andrew Lyle, uses some of the money he saves by using free software to pay freeware authors to develop and extend their programs.
I first encountered Roger and his program Rasmol on the internet. It was announced as a piece of free software, and I immediately realized that it was extremely important for the kind of work we were trying to do. I think it's no exaggeration to say it is the best program in the world at doing what it does. And I realized that Glaxo had a great opportunity to further develop this program, to add features based on what our scientists want, and then put it out into the public domain, so that as well as taking things like GNU and X, we're giving things back that can be used by both our competitors and people in universities and colleges.
Freeware programmers are not simply concerned that software should cost nothing. They also object to the patenting of software by large computer companies. Freeware advocates say that having a commercial software patent is like having a copyright on logic itself, and the enormous growth of patents is making it difficult to write software without breaking one of them.
The growth of patents on algorithms, on features of software, is gradually, piece by piece, making our work forbidden, illegal. A computer program can often be very large. The compiler for the GNU system is 500,000 lines in the source code. Now, a large program like this uses many different algorithms and provides to the user many different features, and any one of them might be patented by you don't know who, or even a combination of two of them might be patented. So this means that developing a program is becoming like walking through a minefield.
A software developer has to protect the work that he does, protect the innovation that he puts into a product with patents, in order that he can be sure of getting a fair price for the product and therefore reinvesting into further development.
But the free software rebels say they will not yield to the commercial interests of software companies, and they have vowed to fight software copyrights and patents.
Now, there are two ways to work for freedom. One is to be inoffensive, never step on anyone else's freedom yourself. The other is to actively defend other people's freedom when someone else tries to take it away. I believe in fighting for freedom.
Coming up after the credits, NetCetera, start your video now. Or for a printed NetCetera and details of the BBC Networking Club and other network services, send a stamped addressed envelope to this address. The Net, BSS, PO Box 7, London W12 6XJ. Next week in The Net, we take a trip down the UK's information superhighway and ask whether we can see the road for the cones. The women who helped crack the German codes in World War II. Getting online in the cafes of California. And in The Net Attack, Jules gets twisted on the 3DO. And finally from The Net...
I think Carly must be the most electronically travelled dog in the world. The picture's been in a Usenet news group, it's been on a CD-ROM, in an Acorn user guide, on a magazine floppy disk, it's been in a magazine article, it's on FTP sites worldwide. I reckon the picture must have been seen by more than 1 million people in more than 100 countries. Carly had an accident last year on holiday, from which she sadly died. Now we hope Sophie will break Carly's record.